Yes, we've been seeing the types of novels. In the last class, we have discussed about the romantic novel. So, a romantic, and you give well and glory for the hero. The hero is of all the ideal characters. He's a supreme hero you could adorn and always have acclaims upon. But exactly the opposite you find in this type of novels you call as Picaresque novels. So this is spelling is Picaresque and it's pronounced as Picaresque novel. So Picar is a word that means a rogue or rascal. So the character is one who is so notorious. But he takes you through so much of adventures. Hero എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമുക്ക് രണ്ട് തരം ഹീറോസ് നമ്മൾ കാണുന്നുണ്ട്. The one is romantic hero, as you have seen in romantic novels. Chivalry and all the greatness will be there upon that kind of heroes. But Picaresque എന്ന് പറയുന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ it is a rogue, a rascal, which means he is so notorious. He will be having all his kinds of whims and fancies. But typically this hero will take you through all the adventures. വായിച്ചു കഴിയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും നമുക്ക് എന്താണ്, we feel moving through the adventures of this hero. അങ്ങനെ നമ്മളെ കൊണ്ടുപോകുന്ന ഒരു നോവലാണ് ദിസ് പിക്കാരസ് നോവൽ. സോ വി ഹാവ് ടു സീ ദ പിക്കാരസ് നോവൽസ് ഇൻ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ്, in other languages too. The Picaresque is Spanish, Picaresco from Picaro, for rogue and rascal. So this is a Spanish origin word which means a rogue and a rascal. It's Picaresque. And it's a popular genre of novel that originated in Spain and flourished in Europe in the 17th and 18th centuries and has continued to influence modern literature. So now, modern literature is the literature which is right now. So now though this originated in Spain in the 17th and 18th centuries, this has continued to influence modern literature. Therefore, now you can see a photo of a Picaresque hero, a rogue or a rascal that is given here. And in the 17th and 18th centuries and has continued to influence modern literature. Therefore, Picaresque novel is a life story of a rogue or a picaro, a clever and amusing adventure of low social status. So now, what is more important is he's not just a rogue or a rascal. He is an adventurer, he is a clever person, and again, he is clever, he is amusing adventurer of low social status. Now, the person is from a low social status. So that's why he is not cultured enough. But he is clever, but at the same time, he is intelligent, he is amusing. So, a Picaresque novel is a life story of a rogue or a picaro, a clever, amusing adventure of low social status. The story is usually narrated in the first person as autobiography. Now, as a story goes, it is in the first person as autobiography. It's in the first person as autobiography. The story is usually narrated in the first person as autobiography. Episodic in nature, and it's again episodic in nature. It is episodic in nature. One second. The story is usually narrated in first person and it's like autobiography. It's episodic in nature, and the plot consists of a series of thrilling incidents. Now you have a plot and it's a series of thrilling incidents, and the hero wanders from place to place, from job to job. So he will not put his foot to just one place. He will just wander from one job to another, from one place to another. And adventures help the picaro to meet the people with the people of all different social strata. Now, as he is moving on from place to place, from job to job, he has got the opportunity to meet and mingle with the people from different walks of life, from different social strata, the businessmen, politicians, clergymen, doctors, lawyers, drunkards, poor, buffoons, etc. So this is a privilege that what the Picaresque hero is getting. He could move from place to place, jump from one job to another, and he could meet all the people from all walks of life, where he would meet again businessmen from all social strata. So though he belongs to the poor social economic status, he could meet people from different social strata, where you have businessmen, you have politicians, you have lawyers, you have clergymen, you have doctors. Typically, as the people you see in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, people from all walks of life, clergymen, doctors, lawyers, drunkards, poor and buffoons, etc. He is just charged with opportunities of satirizing the hypocrisy and corruption of the society. Now, the importance and the privilege that he enjoys is he could mingle and He could make criticism, he could make ironic comments upon and satirize the social status, different social status of the society, because he is more used to them right now. And he's just charged with he is charged with opportunities of satirizing the hypocrisy and corruption of the Indian society, as what exactly like Chaucer has done, Geoffrey Chaucer has done in the Canterbury Tales. Using such characters, he was trying to mold society, was trying to find out, put out the hypocrisies of the society, was trying to satirize society. So bringing out all the evils that was going in society, taking different references from the people from all the walks of life. Now, characteristically, the Picaresque novel is anti-romantic in nature. That's why I mentioned in the beginning about romantic novels we have discussed in the last class. Though this is characteristically, the Picaresque novel is anti-romantic in nature. It is anti-romantic. You don't have any glory for the hero. He is a very normal, very base person, having all the whims and fancies. So, characteristically, the Picaresque novel is anti-romantic in nature. It sharply attacks the romance, courtly marriage, and clever and chivalry of the medieval literature. Now you have chivalrous heroes in a romantic literature, romantic novels. But here it is sharply attacks the romance and courtly marriage and chivalry. So nothing with courtly marriages. You don't love a person in deep and you never get married to that. And chivalry, all the heroes, the knights and like all those heroes come in, the kings and priests. You don't have any such characters in the Picaresque novels. Characteristically, the Picaresque novel is anti-romantic in nature. It is sharply attacks romance. It is anti-romantic in nature. It sharply attacks the romance, courtly marriage, and chivalry of the medieval literature. And Dr. Kettle is of the opinion what made the novel possible was a new attitude to the world brought by a decadence of feudal society. Now this was according to Kettle, what made the novel possible was the new attitude to the world brought by the decadence of the feudal society. So it was during the decadence of the feudal society, the attitudes and which they saw and learned from that made them possible to come out as kind of Picaresque novels. With the passing of the old society, a vacuum was created. People were faced with a desperate situation. So as the age was passing on from the 15th and 16th centuries, with the passing of the old society, a vacuum was created. There was a kind of vacuum. There was something, they were trying to loot it out. And people were faced with a desperate situation. Ruined and demoralized, the aristocracy took to questionable means for mere survival. Now, they have ruined and demoralized all situations, and the aristocracy took to questionable means for mere survival. They were just there for survival, and they were questionable. People started to question the aristocracy. And the lower classes became the rogues and vagabonds, and for now, no doubt, and they have taken all the privilege, and lower class have become rogues and rascals and vagabonds. Surely the Picaresque novel came out in such a vehement contest. So now we have Picaresque novels coming in a situation where the aristocracy was questioned and the normal people, the common man, they became the rogues and vagabonds, and this paved the way for the Picaresque novels. Lazarillo de Thomas is the first Picaresque novel in Spain. So if you take the Spanish literature, Lazarillo de Thomas is the first Picaresque novel in Spain, and that tells us a story of a Picaro boy. And now it's about, typically as the title suggests, this might be the hero in the story. Lazarillo de Thomas is the first Picaresque novel in Spain that tells the story of a life of a Picaro boy. History of the life of Bosque is another Spanish Picaresque novel describing the life and adventure of a rascal who follows his wealthy schoolmate. Now again, you have the history of the life of Bosque is another Spanish Picaresque novel, because you have the history of Picaresque novels in the Spanish literature. So you will definitely mention about two major Picaresque novels there. One is Lazarillo de Thomas, is the first Picaresque novel in Spain that tells the story of a life of a Picaro boy. And again, history of the life of Bosque is another Spanish Picaresque novel describing the life and adventures of a rascal who follows his wealthy schoolmate. Now it's the life of a rascal who follows his wealthy schoolmate. So a lower class boy who is following a upper class wealthy schoolmate. He joins a gang of thieves, pops a cripple, and becomes an actor, and finally went to America. And the story is that he joins a gang of thieves. Later he poses as a cripple. He behaves and guises as a cripple and becomes an actor, and finally went to America. This is a story of the Spanish rogue in life of Bosque, history of the life of Bosque. Now, Cervantes, this is very important. Cervantes' Don Quixote is somewhat akin to Spanish Picaresque novel. It is a devastating satire on the entire mischievous pile of romantic absurdity. Now you have the next one is Cervantes' Don Quixote. Don Quixote is a hero, Picaresque hero there. It's somewhat akin or similar to the Spanish Picaresque novel. It is a devastating satire on the entire mischievous pile of romantic absurdity. Now this is against all the pile of romantic absurdity. And Gil Bilas by Les Sage is, however, the best known Picaresque novel that exercised a huge influence on Fielding and Smollett. Now, Gil Bilas by Les Sage is another, however, the best known Picaresque novel that exercised a huge influence on Fielding and Smollett. All this you can just read the summaries. I don't say you will have to go with the novels, but please go through the summaries of all these novels, which could help you greatly. How the stories are transformed. And however, it was Thomas Nash, the university vet, who introduced the Picaresque novel tradition in English fiction. So now, if you come to English literature, it was Thomas Nash who introduced the university vet who introduced the Picaresque tradition in the English fiction, and The Unfortunate Traveler and the Life of Jack Wilton. It is remarkable for its spirit and wit and for the streak of tragic realism which runs throughout the major episodes. Now this one, if you take to English literature, Thomas Nash, you come with Thomas Nash, the university wit, he introduced the Picaresque tradition in his fiction. You could not call it a Picaresque novel. You cannot call it a Picaresque novel, but there is a tradition of Picaresque novel in Thomas Nash, The Unfortunate Traveler and the Life of Jack Wilton, and is remarkable for its spirit and wit and for the streak of tragic realism which runs throughout the major. In romantic novels, you cannot find a trace of tragic realism, but it is found in this Thomas Nash, The Unfortunate Traveler and the Life of Jack Wilton. Then Moll Flanders is considered to be the first epicaresque of the 18th century. Now Moll Flanders, Cervantes' Moll Flanders is considered the first Picaresque novel of the 18th century. But critics like Ian Walt, Almond Kettle and Neil opposed the idea to call it a mere Picaresque novel. According to Ian Walt, the adventures of the heroine are rooted in dynamics of economic individualism, and so she is different from the Picaresque protagonist. Now, you have criticisms even against the Moll Flanders, where you have Ian Walt coming up. The adventures of the heroine are rooted in dynamics of economic individualism, and you find a rogue and a rascal like heroine here, but you cannot say this is purely a Picaresque novel for the reason because of the economic individualism this heroine has got here, and she is so different from the Picaresque protagonist. So in that case, she is not from a low economic status, and she is typically away from the Picaresque heroes or heroines or protagonists. Now, Henry Fielding's Tom Jones is a gorgeous novel in Picaresque tradition. So, if you keep out all the criticisms and of the previous fictions, you come to Henry Fielding's Tom Jones as a gorgeous novel in Picaresque tradition. Tom is a traveling foundling. The plot of Tom Jones is cleverly constructed framework for a picture of life. It takes a reader to a panoramic tour through society, a tour in which all the features of interest would be unobstructively highlighted. And his another Picaresque novel is Sir Joseph Andrews. So you have Henry Fielding's Tom Jones and Sir Joseph Andrews. Both would serve well the purpose of Picaresque tradition. And in Tom Jones is a gorgeous novel in Picaresque tradition. Tom is a traveling foundling. The plot of Tom Jones is cleverly constructed framework for a picture of life. It takes a reader to panoramic tour through society. So you have tour through the society. Tour in which all the features of the interest would be unobstructively highlighted without any obstructions. All the walks of life, all the problems in the society is highlighted. His another Picaresque novel is Sir Joseph Andrews. Then you have Thackeray's Vanity Fair. It's a Picaresque novel again. Other novels with elements of Picaresque include Charles Dickens' David Copperfield, Rudyard Kipling's Kim, Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and Jack Kerouac's On the Road, and Helen Savoy's Dirty Weekend. So all these you can read as the references to the Picaresque novel. To conclude, Picaresque novel fell spotlight on realistic aspects of the society. This is upon the realistic aspects of the society. To conclude, Picaresque novel fell spotlight on the realistic aspects of society. The broad social canvas, the vivid descriptions of trades and professions, the mingling of all social classes, and ironic scrutiny of the morals. These characteristics surely enrich our taste to read the Picaresque novel time and again. So, to conclude it, you would say the Picaresque novels fell spotlight on the realistic aspect of society. The broad social canvas, the vivid descriptions of trades and professions, the mingling of all social classes, the ironic scrutiny of the morals, all these is examined, re-examined in the Picaresque novel. So you can just listen to after you listen to the class, try to take down the points. Points ആയിട്ട് ഒന്ന് നോട്ട് ചെയ്ത് വെക്കുക. വളരെ എളുപ്പമാണ് അങ്ങനെ പോയിന്റ്സ് ആയിട്ട് നോട്ട് ചെയ്ത് വെച്ചാൽ യു ക്യാൻ ജസ്റ്റ് ക്ലബ് ഇറ്റ് ടുഗദർ ഫോർ യു എക്സാംസ്. അപ്പം മൊത്തമായിട്ട് എഴുതിയെടുക്കരുത്, പോയിന്റ്സും അത് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് പോയിന്റ്സും അതിൻ്റെ എക്സാമ്പിൾസും ഓതേഴ്സും മാത്രം എഴുതിയെടുക്കുക. ആൻഡ് ആഫ്റ്റർ ദാറ്റ് ജസ്റ്റ് ഗോ ത്രൂ ദ സമ്മറി ഓഫ് ദ വർക്ക്സ് വിച്ച് ആർ മെൻഷൻ ഹിയർ. ആ കഥകളൊന്ന് സമ്മറി മാത്രം എല്ലാത്തിൻ്റെയും 1 page summary and all is available. Just go read through all those summaries so you get familiar with the kinds of different kinds of novels and authors and their works. Okay then, thank you.